I have a couple questions, and I'll maybe start with the less personal one. That I think a lot of the women may also relate to is I totally get and believe, it's best to choose the higher emotion and that better feeling. And when I have PMS, it's almost like it's not an option. It's like, it's not me anymore. It's not my body, it's not my thoughts. There is something that comes over me that is so kind of uncontrollable.
We know it seems that way, and we hear the emphatic story that you're telling. And we know it feels like you didn't start telling the story until you had the experience. But we really want you to know that if during the time that you are not feeling that way, you would tell a different warm-up story, you could have a different experience in time. It won't happen immediately, but you can have a different experience in time.
Okay. The other question is much more personal.
What can be more personal than PMS?
Yeah, well. I've been studying the law of attraction and all of this for a long time, and I kind of feel like I've been like the person you were talking about or in the first day of like, yes, I believe it, I deserve it, I deserve it, why don't I have it? I believe it, I deserve it. And I've gotten to a point, for me, what it's about is having a family and having not a good relationship, but a fabulous relationship, a great relationship, and a child with the man I love. And I just had a breakup not too long ago. I was in a relationship that was a total upstream. And I stayed in it and I compromised myself because I wanted a family so badly. And now,
even though everything that you saw about it was not a vibrational match to what's in your vibrational escrow, but it felt to you like something was better than nothing. But it turns out that's not true, is it?
No.
Because in the absence of something, there is a possibility of alignment, while in the presence of something that's really not a match, the possibility of alignment is harder. So you haven't lost ground, you've gained ground. Can you feel that?
Yeah, sometimes I feel it. But
can you feel how over time you've created a magnificent vibrational escrow about your family, about your children, about your mate, about your relationship? And can you hear us when we say, when you become a consistent match to that escrow, it has to start showing up in your experience? And you're stubborn, and good for you. You don't want something less than you want. So, but the thing that we're going to say to you in a sort of hard-hitting way, you got to figure out how to be a match to what's in your escrow. You've got to start telling the story of what's in your escrow. You have to start telling the story of this family and this relationship and this kind-hearted man. You have to tell the story of how when you see him, you know him, and when he sees you, he knows you. You have to tell the story of how you're different and yet in alignment. You have to tell the story of how he's strong and yet doesn't do your work, and how he's allowing and allows you to show your strengths. You have to tell the story of how much fun it is to be together, and what a funny personality he has, and how often he makes you laugh and how often you make him laugh. You have to tell the story of how expansive it feels, and how the moment you met, you could feel this integrity, this coming together. It felt like it had been happening for a long time, and yet it still felt open-ended, like you had so much to discover in each other. You have to tell the story about how it didn't matter how long it took to get there, because the waiting was well worth it. You have to tell the story that even though there are times that you realize that it hasn't fully manifested, that you're not worried about it, because what's coming feels so good to you that you're happily satisfied in the interim. In other words, you just got to tell a story that's pleasing while you tell it, and more detailed the longer you tell it, and thrilling you more as you add more details to it. Use the power of your storytelling. Use the power of your mind. Use the power of your selective sifting. And never mind where you are in terms of manifestation. Tell the story so that you achieve vibrational alignment with it. That's the purpose of the story. Because if you tell the story and you manage to achieve vibrational alignment through the storytelling that you're telling, then the universe has to deliver it to you. And then as it appears, oh, the coming together of you and you is the big reunion that we're talking about. We are so looking forward to your birthing those babies, and we're so looking forward to the experience that you will have with your mate. All of that is before you. But we're also looking forward to the soothing that you're going to give yourself in the telling of the story. That can be as good as the reality. And if you can know that, and you'll start telling the story so that it takes the sting out of the absence of the reality, you'll be there, and you'll be there fast.
And just a follow-up on that, my question is also my passion. I've been such a passionate person, and I've done amazing things in my life. And so many of my passions, I don't have that drive and passion for my career like I used to. And the only thing that really seems present is to have a family. And I get what you're saying, and it's getting harder as I get older. I'm 43. And I know that's just a story and a statistic.
Well, it's a story that every time you tell it sets you back in the sense that it holds you in resistance to what's in your vibrational escrow every time you tell it. Yeah. But it's not unusual when you have something that you want, that you feel like it isn't moving along in the way you want it to. So you're using it as your excuse to have resistance. It's not unusual for that resistance to dampen your spirits on other subjects like career too. In other words, feeling sort of discouraged over this relationship and family thing because you're focused upon what is instead of on what is becoming, then that's got you out of sync with who you really are, so that you have sort of have a tug of war going on inside of you. And it's that tug of war doesn't mean that there's some strong contradiction that you've got to overcome. It just means it's the habit of chronic thought that you've got going on. Let us say it again. When something that you really want isn't happening the way you want it to be, and you're not yet telling the story of it, you're focused upon what is, that's enough to get you into that place of resistance relative to everything, so that it sort of lays a blanket of gloom and doom over everything that you're doing. So you're not as frisky about anything when you're worried about something that's such a major component of your life. In other words, you've made this relationship and this family be a big component of your life, and of course it is. So when you take the thing that matters most to you of all other things put together and you focus upon it negatively, it has a sort of negative ramification on everything. As you begin telling the story that feels better relative to that subject, everything in your life will perk up. It really will. We tell people frequently, just stop thinking about it. You've put it in vibrational escrow. If you could stop thinking about it, then you'd move quickly toward it, because every time you think about it, you beat the drum that keeps you from moving toward it. So if you'd stop thinking about it, you'd stop beating the drum that's keeping you from moving toward it, and you'd move it toward it. But when it's a subject like that, where everywhere you look there's something that makes you think about it, you really don't have any choice other than to clean up your vibration about it. And the fastest way to clean up your vibration about it is to begin to tell the story of the way you want it to be. It would be nice if we could imbue you with our knowledge of your ability to achieve what's in your vibrational escrow. Sometimes we just like to knock you all on the head and sort of knock you into an awareness that it's real. It's not an if thing, it's a real thing. But you've got to practice yourself into vibrational alignment with it.
Well, that's the thing. I've done it with so many things in my life. I mean, I've achieved, and I have great relationship with money, with housing.
But you see this, even the story that you're telling us here is, in other words, even though you're putting a positive spin on, I know it works because I've done it with other things, the underlying message that you're still given is, I've done it with a lot of things, but I'm not doing it with this. Everything that you say back to us is sort of supporting where I'm at, 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 where I'm at. And you got to let loose of where you're at. And nobody can stop thinking a thought without thinking another thought. So you just got to tell that story. So we're out of time here, so we won't hold you in the hot seat too long, but give us the beginning of this story of what's in your vibrational escrow.
Well, it's a phenomenal relationship. It's a relationship that works, that doesn't require endless...
All right, now you feel too detached from it. So dive into the middle of it and give us the nitty-gritty of this great life you're living.
Okay. It's a life where...
Still too detached. It's not a life. It's my life. In other words, talk about it as it is. I love coming home. I love getting together. I love having been apart through the day. We cannot wait to get back together. Those kinds of things.
Okay. I love my husband, and it's just amazing how he's my best friend, my partner, and someone who's so easy for me to be with. There's just
all right,
a
now
flow.
all of those are good words, but it sounds a little bit like blah blah blah, and that's all right. And the only reason that we're saying that is because we want you to practice that story until it really begins to feel. In fact, if you want to, we'll wait until the end of the day tomorrow, once you've had a chance to play with this story a little bit, and we'll hear it coming from you again after you've had a little chance to practice it. It's not fair for us to ask you, after you've been practicing a story that sounds more like over here, to start telling a story that sounds like over here. And so it's natural that it would feel a little awkward to you. But we think, as you've been listening to us, aren't you all getting the sense of the power of the story that you're telling? And don't you all want to begin telling a better story? And don't you realize that as you begin telling the story, that at first you're not telling it very well, but the longer you tell it, the better it gets? So work on filling some of the details in and put yourself in the middle of that. In other words, we want you to tell a story that goes something like this. I love knowing that I'm the creator of my own reality, and I love knowing that I dreamed this relationship into being before it even came to me. And I love knowing that everything that I'm getting to live now in real life experience are details that I put there one at a time, one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. So I know the perfection of this relationship that I'm now smack dab in the middle of, and I don't take any of it for granted. I'm loving every little bit of this relationship, and then just springboard off from there. You see, make it real, feel in the nitty-gritty of it. And when you see, go around your world and watch for evidence of others that are living little pieces of what you want to live, and say, yeah, that's it, that's it. When you see someone kissy facing with someone on the elevator and you can tell that they're just in love with one another, take that piece of it and say, universe, you brought me to rendezvous with this because you know that this is part of what's in my vibrational escrow. When you see those darling little kids running down the hallway in love with life and in love with each other and looking up at their parents and embracing life experience, and you see them, say to the universe, thanks for helping me rendezvous with this little rascal, because that's exactly what I know is in my vibrational escrow. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to have this piece that I can observe right here in real life. In other words, there's all kinds of evidence, components of what you want, that the universe is saying, here's a little of it, here's a little of it, lick this ice cream cone, lick this ice cream cone, lick this ice cream cone, lick this ice cream cone. Here it is, here it is, here it is, here it is. And if you're not so busy saying, no it isn't, no it isn't, as you start letting the universe show you, here's a piece, look how you've attracted this, look how you've attracted this. You're getting closer, you're on the trail. It's like breadcrumbs leading you right to this magnificent relationship that is on your doorstep. Tell the story and open the door. We've enjoyed this interaction immensely. There is great love here for you. We are complete.